he played a female bard who was, in his own words, the most beautiful woman you have ever seen. When his character got captured by Minotaurs, he didn't try to escape. He offered his body to them, and when the DM tried to skip the scene, Paul described it himself. In graphic detail. With images of. In a group chat where a girl he had been grooming had just rejoined. And that's not even the worst part. Because what the group did next got the police involved. This was a text-based D&D game run through a group chat. The DM was Patrick. The players were Erica the Druid, Up the Warlock, Brian the Tiefling Sorcerer, Sarah, and then there was Paul, playing a high elf bard named Elaxi. Everyone introduced their characters with personality, flavor, and care. Paul introduced Elaxi by making sure everyone knew she was the most beautiful woman they had ever seen. He mentioned it several times. That was her personality. Her defining trait wasn't her magic, or her backstory, or her goals. It was her appearance. And if that sounds familiar, it's because we've seen this pattern before. The horny bard stereotype exists for a reason. Most tables have had one. Usually it's harmless if a little annoying. An occasional flirt with a tavern keeper, a bad seduction role played for laughs. But Paul wasn't playing it for laughs. Paul was building something. A few sessions in, Op started noticing something. Sarah's behavior was changing. Her text patterns had become more reserved. Her vocabulary had shrunk. She was still playing, but something was off. Op didn't know what yet, but they noticed. Meanwhile, Paul had made everyone very aware of just how stereotypical his bard was. Every interaction was an opportunity to remind the table that Elaxi was beautiful, desirable, and sexually available. Then the party entered a dungeon patrolled by Minotaurs. Elaxi was captured and thrown into a prison cell. A Minotaur stood guard outside. Paul rolled to seduce it. Natural 20. Patrick, the DM, tried to handle it gracefully. He described the Minotaur getting shy. Then Paul said, "I offer my body to him." Everyone went on high alert. Sarah left the group chat immediately. Patrick tried to salvage the situation and move the story forward. But Paul kept steering the conversation back. Every time Patrick tried to redirect, Paul found a way to return to the scene. With, as Op put it, the subtlety of a giraffe trying to hide in a desert. Patrick eventually caved, and did what many DMs do when they're uncomfortable but don't want confrontation. He tried a fade to black. Skip the scene, move on. It's a common tool. It should have been the end of it. It wasn't the end of it. Paul jumped in and started describing the scene himself. In explicit detail. At this exact moment, Sarah rejoined the group chat, saying she had needed to take care of something. Before Patrick could ban him, before anyone could react, Paul posted an image. An NSFW, NSFL image of his character being tortured and raped by a Minotaur. In graphic detail. And Sarah saw it. Sarah left the chat again. Paul was banned and blocked by everyone immediately. This wasn't a joke that went too far. This wasn't a misread of the room. Paul had that image prepared. He had it ready to go. He was waiting for the moment. And the timing of Sarah rejoining the chat was not a coincidence in his mind. He wanted her to see it. That's not roleplay. That is targeted harassment, using a D&D game as a delivery mechanism. About a week later, Patrick, Brian, and Op were put into a separate chat with Sarah. And that's when they learned the truth. Sarah showed them screenshots. Dozens of them. Paul had been sending her private messages, grooming her, and he had sent her explicit images of himself. Multiple times. Sarah wasn't just uncomfortable. She had been a victim of sustained harassment outside of the game that nobody knew about. Sarah was 18. But she recognized something important. If Paul did this to her, he would do it to someone younger. Someone more vulnerable. someone who might not fight back. And she decided she wasn't going to let that happen. This is the moment where most stories end. The predator gets blocked. Everyone moves on. The server forgets. But Sarah didn't want to forget. And what happened next is genuinely impressive. The group hatched a plan. Led by Up. They created a fake Discord account. A 16-year-old girl. They knew which servers Paul was active on. They joined one and started sending DMs. It took less than 2 days. Within 48 hours, Paul was already sending explicit content. Images, videos, real and drawns. The operation continued for 2 weeks. In that time they gathered grooming behavior, explicit material, Paul's full name, his city and state, and full-face photographs of himself. 2 weeks, that's how long it took to build an airtight case. Paul didn't just take the bait. He sprinted toward it. He had done this so many times, was so comfortable with the pattern, that he didn't even hesitate when a supposed 16-year-old appeared in his DMs. It was automatic for him. And that's the most terrifying part. Up blocked Paul without revealing the operation. The group compiled everything: chat logs, images, videos, photographs, identifying information. They packaged it into a single file and sent it to Paul's local police department. At the time of the original post, Paul's Discord profile showed he hadn't been online in 5 months. All of his gaming profiles said the same. Whether that means the police acted, or whether Paul simply disappeared, nobody knows for certain. But he stopped. And for every potential victim that Paul will never reach, this group of D&D players deserves the credit. Up's final message was simple. Even if you think this story sounds fake because of all the predictable twists, please take this to heart, especially if you are a minor. Only talk where other people you trust can see the messages. And if you're an adult who sees the signs, do what Sarah did. Don't just block and move on. Act. Because the Pauls of this world don't stop on their own.